Nowadays, Cape Town is seen as Africa's most successful city, whilst Johannesburg is portrayed as a failed city stuck in decline. But how true really is this? The reality is significantly more complex, and comparing the two requires far more nuance, and that's what we're going to do today. Cape Town was started by the Cochin people. However, its modern history begins in 1652, following the setting up of the Dutch East India Company, started by Han van Riebeeck. The Cape was under Dutch control for around 150 years, with many of the Dutch planting vineyards and orchards, which are preserved today by the company's garden. Asian immigration to Cape Town also started in 1658. In the early 1800s, however, the notorious British Anglos took over, and around 1900 the Cape was one of the locations involved in the Anglo-Boer War. Under apartheid, over 60,000 people were forcibly removed from the city, and an entire district was destroyed. Johannesburg was founded in 1886 following the discovery of gold in the area, and immediately filled with miners and prospectors trying to profit. This resulted in wealth flooding into the city, and the city grew at a pace very few others had. Companies also started investing in infrastructure and industry, but inequality was evident from the start. Under apartheid, the city continued to grow economically along with its neighbouring city Pretoria. After apartheid, the city became the largest economy in Africa and developed many business districts, such as Sandton, which is located near the city centre. Since then, in the national election in 1994, the ANC controlled Cape Town. However, in every election since 2006, the city of Cape Town has been controlled by the Democratic Alliance. Since 2006, the DA have prioritised major expansion of water, electricity and sanitation to informal settlements and strong investment in maintenance, not only new projects. Cape Town has also introduced one of the first full bus transport systems in Africa, the My City bus, which runs from the airport and around the city and is very useful for tourists and for commuters within the city. The DA have also pushed against Exxon dependency, and we all know how good Exxon is with their load shedding, and proposed municipal level energy generation. They also implemented water restrictions during the 2017-2018 drought, which helped prevent day zero. Economically, they prioritised tourism, investment and business, making Cape Town the largest metropolitan economy in South Africa. In Johannesburg, however, the ANC have ruled since 1994 to 2016, and since 2016 the city has been run through coalition governments, but these are often messy, sometimes ANC-led, sometimes DA-led, with anything happening. These governments push Johannesburg as a business-focused city, with major buildings such as the Carlton Centre and the Leon Island. The city also pushed higher density housing and township expansion. Johannesburg launched its own bus system, but has struggled with funding and financial stability. Spending expanded on water, electricity, sanitation and free basic services for low-income households, many of which there are in the townships surrounding the city. Johannesburg remains Africa's largest economy for now, driven by finance. However, the government has been unstable, with frequent mayoral changes, collapsed councils and corruption, and this will likely mean that they will be overtaken by Cape Town soon. This shows that whilst both cities have had ANC governments after 1994, they've gone in different ways since 2006, and the DA have focused on more tourism and sustainability, whilst Johannesburg has tried to push for growth and a more traditional large city model, more like somewhere like London. In terms of cost of living, however, Cape Town tends to have much higher average rents, with average rents in the city being around 15 to 16,000 rand, around 600 to 700 pounds. The centre on average costs around 21,000 rand. Costs for food costs around 2,500 rand per person per week, however can quickly add up for larger families. My City is also cheap but limited, meaning many buy cars in order to commute to work. Johannesburg average rent is around 5,800 rand, about £340. Food shopping and general costs are quite similar, however. Cars are almost always a necessity in the city because their transport is unreliable and filled with corruption. So overall the cost of living is relatively higher in Cape Town, but generally driven by rents. On the subject of employment, overall, South Africa has a staggering youth employment rate of 66%, meaning around 2 in 3 young people are unemployed. Of young South Africans, only around 25% attend university or trade schools. In Cape Town, however, the statistics are much better, with youth unemployment being only 35 to 40%, which is still high, but not as bad as the national average. In the Cape Town metro, there are around 1.8 to 2 million young people. The largest employers are mainly driven by tourism in hospitality, retail and digital work. The main issue with these, however, is the result of the high rents in Cape Town, especially near the city centre, which are also driven by immigration to the city for its large job market and better quality of life. The large majority of Cape Town's jobs, however, are low skilled. However, there are still not enough of the amount of people who require them. In Johannesburg, the metropolitan consists of around 2.8 million people, with 45 to 50% of residents being around 21 to 35, so generally a young population. Youth unemployment sits around 40 to 45%, slightly higher than Cape Town's, but not too different. Similarly to Cape Town, many young people get jobs in retail and informal jobs in the surrounding townships. However, unlike Cape Town, in areas like Sandton, there are more traditional office jobs, which do require tertiary education, but since around 25% do have that, then there are high-end jobs there, and in the sister and administrative capital of the country, Pretoria. Cape Town has a murder rate of around 66 to 70 per 100,000 people, higher than the national average of 45. Driven largely by gang violence in townships and the Cape Flats. Johannesburg's murder rate is around 40 to 45 people per 100,000, closer to the national average. Cape Town generally is a much more violent crime per capita, while Johannesburg has high rates of carjackings and house robberies linked to organised crime. Cape Town has much sharper spatial crime divides. For example, in the townships there's much more crime than at Sea Point or Table View, while crime in Johannesburg is more spread around the entire city. Something that must be addressed when talking about South Africa is the look of the area and the skyline, because it's why most people do emigrate there. Cape Town is notorious for its beautiful scenery, consisting of its beautiful sandy beaches, penguins and the glistening Atlantic Ocean, and Table Mountain of course. Generally, Cape Town is filled with colourful houses and good weather, making it ideal for tourists and wealthy people that want to stay in the city. Johannesburg, however, has a small selection of relatively large skyscrapers, but doesn't have really either beautiful architecture or really impressive skyscrapers, and doesn't have the natural beauty of Cape Town. The future of Cape Town is likely to be a future of continued population growth and economic expansion, and whilst it's expected, it's not guaranteed, but it is expected to overtake Johannesburg as Africa's richest city. Growth is expected in tourism, services and businesses. Johannesburg, however, is more likely to continue growing slowly, remaining South Africa's main financial centre and largest city.